All right, Ally.
While y'all transition, just to ask, because you talked about the congestion management process, which is different than the congestion management plan.
The process is, sorry. The process is like the core of the plan. So you would take the process and then you would look at the region and you would apply that process to priority corridors. And that is what makes it a plan, because then you've got projects that are listed, let's say for I-45 or 610 or, FM 1960, that then flow into the TIP. Right now, we've got a process. We've outlined, like, these are our top 10 corridors, but we haven't paired strategies with the corridors. So it's more of a process, less of a plan.
And so I bring that up because with the RTP orientation yesterday, bringing up the bylaws, one of the bylaws is for that subcommittee to provide guidance on the plan, which is something I'm not familiar with that subcommittee doing, but I'm still green.
Yeah, ideally, we would be bringing all of those sub-regional plans through the RTP subcommittee. And we'll talk a little bit more about these additional plans that HGAC does that are not federally required, but that's part of that $15 million in the UPWP that we spend the money on to initiate the recommendations that are then added as projects. But all that to say, those studies, those sub-regional studies are really what should be the start of the development of a project that's added to the RTP. And that's why it's tied to the RTP subcommittee.
So as you hire this person, you get more into it, then we'll see more conversation in the RTP, coming to the RTP subcommittee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you all will have input on how much congestion is too much congestion. That's going to be a fun discussion. And does it look different in, Houston versus Tomball versus, we'll have all of those discussions, and we'll need your input, the TISMO subcommittee input, because congestion management is a big part of what they do as well.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay. Foreshadowing. Got it.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so HJC, as the Council of Governments, there are several departments within HJC, and the MPO/Transportation Department is just one of those. So we have Workforce Solutions, we have a Government Relations group, we have Data Analytics and Research group, we have Community and Environmental, we have Human Services. There's a lot that this agency does as a whole. And the COG, the Council of Governments, is governed by their board of directors. There is some overlap with the board of directors members and the Transportation Policy Council members. There are a few that do double duty. And there are transportation items that are taken to the board of directors for approval. But what they're doing during those board of directors meetings is acting in their fiscal agent role, and they're making sure that we followed the procurement processes, that nothing's looking suspicious as far as the consultants we're selecting, that sort of thing. They're not deciding at the board of directors what activities or what projects we're doing in the MPO. So that's the job of the Transportation Policy Council and the MPO. One and the same. Okay. And like we've talked about a little bit before, the COG is our fiscal agent. They provide things like HR, our benefits are through the COG, that sort of thing. All right, and I think that was a really quick section, so here we go. We'll keep going. So this is really small, but again, we'll email all this out to y'all so you can have it to refer to. But this is the structure of our management team. So Vermila and I are assistant directors. We also have, I think I need reading glasses now. Susan Jaworski is our manager for the Regional Multimodal Planning Group. So she's in charge of the RTP. She's in charge of bike ped planning, region-wide efforts like the resilience plan run through her, safety, those sort of activities. Monique Johnson is our manager for sub-regional planning. So she works on a lot of these smaller area mobility studies, corridor studies. So some of them are countywide thoroughfare plans. Some of them are for a precinct mobility-wide study or mobility study, precinct-wide mobility study. Vishu Lingala, you all are, I'm sure, familiar with him. He's famous. He's our TIP manager. So he's our, he does the programming of the funds, and he is our expert in the categories, what's eligible, how to work all of the numbers. And in the back in red is our manager for the administration and finance group here. She's a senior manager. She's recently returned to us, so we're excited to have her back. But she's in charge of the UPWP, contracts, advice, billings. Those are a big part of her job. Our advanced funding agreements with TxDOT to use some of the funding for the other programs that we don't use the Unified Planning work program dollars on, that sort of thing. And then with Jamila, we have Marcus Tucker. His role is the MPO programs manager. And so he does things like the commute solutions work and more of our programmatic activities like the tow and go, those sort of things. Then we have Andrew DeCandis, who's our air quality manager. So conformity is his purview. They also have a clean vehicles program, so that's engine replacement to get the air quality improved a little bit. And then Callie Barnes is our manager for project delivery. And so she'll start meeting with project sponsors when they move up into those TIP years. Quarterly, she'll meet with them to make sure that they're moving along. And her staff, we're trying to build up her team to get going. Helping her out. So again, just a little bit more about what the admin and finance team does. They do the processing of invoices. So if you've ever been a partner with us, you may have worked with Neely and the invoice group. They look at vendor contracts, but most importantly, she is our UPWP queen. So you'll be hearing from her a lot more with the new Unified Planning Work Program that we're going to be developing and rolling out. But her team works a lot to make sure our committee meetings run smoothly. Lucinda is our Transportation Policy Council coordinator, so she helps get the packet together for the TPC. Veronica Waller, who's not here today, but she's the version of Lucinda for you all. So she's our Transportation Advisory Committee coordinator, and you know, they both know the bylaws of these committees like the back of their hand. They have membership lists and that sort of thing. They get materials sent out and distributed, so they really are important for what you all see during the committee meetings. Okay, and then a little bit more about Susan's group, RTP, active transportation planning, also freight planning. So we have one planner that's primary focus is freight. Safety planning, we recently hired someone to work on our safety action plans that we'll be developing over the next couple of years. And then we have a planner focused on freight, or I'm sorry, on resilience. And some of the products that this team has produced in the last few years. These are some examples of the RTP and the Regional Goods Movement Plan. And so, yeah, you'll hear from these staff a lot when the plans are starting off and when they're wrapping up. And they're out in the community meeting with the locals impacted in the areas of the plans that they're working on. And then our sub-regional planning team managed by Monique Johnson. These are, you know, subsections of that 8-county region. So I could go on forever about the importance of a thoroughfare plan, but that's not the purpose of today. And so we get requests, and we're getting a lot of requests recently on sub-regional plans. So these are, you know, oh, we want to look at a bike facility in this neighborhood or in this tax increment reinvestment zone. And so we're coming up with a process. We can't do everything that's requested of us with that $15 million and with the 40 staff that we have. And so we're coming up with a process of how to kind of prioritize and basically queue up the requested studies. Again, just some examples of studies that this team has been working on and near completion: a thoroughfare plan for Chambers County and a mobility study for Pearland. Okay, and then Vishu's role as the manager of the programming team, they have several people just monitoring our program fund years. They handle amendments to the transportation improvement program. They handle coordinating with our state transportation improvement program. So we have to make sure that project descriptions are the same, the amounts are the same, that everything lines up, or else we'll get what's called an exception, and it basically pauses the progress of that activity in the transportation improvement program until FHWA and HGAC and the project sponsor can all agree that the project description is accurate and lines up in both plans. Okay. I think, Jamila, you can take over.